Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Real Business Roundtable. Today we're going to talk about, does size matter? Kudos to Powdered Toast Man. No, I'm not talking about anything sexually related, as you may think at home, which is what got you to click on this video.
What do you mean? Who's Powdered Toast Man?
Powdered Toast Man is a character on the cartoon from the 90s, Ren and Stimpy.
But why do you keep saying kudos? Like what?
A shout out to Powdered Toast Man. I have the
Shit.
utmost level of respect and
Powdered
love
Toast
for
Man.
that character. Okay, so today we're talking about, does size matter? Not sexually related. We're talking about client size, project size, average sale size. During the entrepreneurship journey, some of you folks in a variety of industries, and again, this is advice. Some of you small business owners will get comfortable with certain size clients.
Keep going. You got it.
You will feel this essence of confidence. Let me give you a real case study so everybody's on the same page. I had a client that sold to residential and commercial. And out of respect and kindness, I will not say their fucking name. They were working with residential. And just so my current projects don't think I'm talking about them, I'm not talking about anybody that's a current client. So they were working with residential, keeping the lights on, growing, doing well, buying, doing things. I don't want to say too much. And then out of the blue, they got a couple commercial big size jobs. That's great. Big checks all at once. Big commercial, hey, we want you to do all of this mess, and we're going to pay you in a big fat paycheck. At face value, that seems wonderful. You feel all great. But what's happening is because those deals are far, few, and between, whatever the phrase is, you're most likely not going to get a steady flow, especially if you're new in the commercial space. I'm talking specifically about home improvement, construction, the trades. If you have years and years of generations running a construction or a trades company, electrician, let's say, and it's just commercial, and you're doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, you got the footprint that you can be confident enough to rely on that, right? It's the people that get into it new and they get a couple big, they win a couple big jobs. Don't put all your eggs in that basket. That is disastrous. You have your whole company on stilts. Now, there is an exception for those that have the history of connecting with different municipalities, with different groups, with different big organizations, property management companies. You put in the work and the time, and literally just off the top of these decision makers' minds, they're thinking, oh, let's call this company for the commercial work. This is an example. So the size of those projects created cloudiness, a false sense of security and confidence to say, you know what? Forget about the small jobs. In my opinion, that is reckless.
That's my opinion!
That is reckless. I recommend, no matter how excited you get, and it's not just about construction, I'm talking about every single, let's just say you sell a product, or you sell, you're a restaurant, and all your dishes are like 5-star, wicked expensive. You should have something on the menu that caters to a different market. Because if you're relying on just selling that expensive thing to that finite market.
Well, okay, I agree with where you're going with that, but I will say this. I wouldn't say specifically with the restaurant industry, have that expensive restaurant, but then also have a more accessible restaurant. I wouldn't, because adding too many things to a menu, and that's specifically to a restaurant, it creates confusion with the people.
You should diversify.
Your restaurants.
Big fashion brands do it. We mentioned this before. We were talking about how big luxury brands use fragrance as an entryway into the brand. So they'll sell cheap t-shirts, person's a walking billboard, for cheaper than their other products, and the fragrances.
Well, so like for example, those high end, they'll have the shows where the models will be walking and whatnot, the releases, and those pieces are the expensive pieces, but then they have the shirts and the jeans and the stuff like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you got to have something within your offering to the masses. There's more people with less money versus those with more money.
So
it's the reason why Walmart is the biggest retailer on the planet, aside from Amazon. Think about that. Stack them high, deep, sell them cheap. It's because there's more people with minimum cash in their pocket or disposable income. So I'm trying to get at is, even if you're a business, a service business, a construction company, a restaurant, have variety. Don't only cater to, I'm only going to do these big giant jobs and that's it, because you're going to, especially if you're new, there's an exception for those that have generations, 40, 50 years in business, and everyone already knows who they are. I have seen people make this mistake. Doing it 18 years, I made this episode because it's like a public service announcement.
I'm Michael Jordan. McDonald's restaurants have given me this time to talk to you about something we both really care about. Kids. Don't do drugs. If you're doing it, stop it. Get some help.
Diversify. The small customers, the small ticket, the medium ticket, the bigger ticket. Diversify. Have some in this box, some in that box, some in that. Don't disrespect revenue. Revenue is extremely important at almost any level. Of course, you're going to have certain things that are kind of not in your wheelhouse, and everyone's different. Sometimes certain things are not worth your time. I get it. But don't be so stuck in your ways, or if you get a taste of some big wave of a bigger average sale, don't get stuck in that mindset, because that's when you're going to see hills and valleys that could be detrimental.
I think that this topic is it works for most industries, but there are some that are very niche that have to focus on the higher end, which if your business model is built around that and you've curated a system and whatever that works for that works. But I agree with you when it comes to like software solutions. There's reason why there's tiers of iPhones. There's a reason why there's tiers of softwares. There's a reason why there's tiers of options of things, right? There's introductory rates. There's stuff like that. It makes sense, right? And that's the whole point of this, is that you want to diversify. Focusing on one median, economic, what is the word I'm trying to
like one section of the socioeconomic breakdown. So like you have the upper echelon, people with a lot more disposable income, right?
Yeah.
And you have people in the middle, and then you have kind of a lower, which is there's more people with less money than than more money. You gotta have options.
Absolutely.
So you maximize the opportunities.
Even look at cars too. I mean, cars is another great example. Except for when you get into Koenigsegg, when you get into
See, like
stuff like that.
I was thinking like when you were like, well, it doesn't apply to everybody. I immediately thought of like Blue Heron Homes. They're a luxury mansion, exotic home builder. They build crazy houses. I think Blue Heron. You just Google that and you can see some of their crazy houses on YouTube, and they're like $30-40 million. Yes, you're selling to upper echelon of society, and maybe you're making enough margin that you could probably have 2 sales a year and be doing great. I'm talking about your average everyday business, like who knows? Maybe they have so much backing that it doesn't matter. They could sell no fucking homes and still be okay because Gertrude is writing them a check.
Well, but here's the thing, though. Even for free sell is a huge developer, designer, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is an industry where there are going to be businesses that, and if the owner owns both, that's great, but there are going to be businesses like Blue Heron and Free Cell that focus on these high-end developments.
Yeah.
They don't have, especially with developments, they don't have time to focus on the small ones.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. They don't have time for it. But then there's the contractors, there's the general contractors.
Yeah.
But this is a perfect example of, hotels is another example. Marriott is one of they own all these, but there's like, think of like smaller ones, like there's St. Regis, there's Ritz, there's all these other ones, but then there's also like the nicer Marriotts, there's the clubs and stuff like that, but they own it, right? So this is another thing where they diversified to look at airplanes, first class, economy, business, like this is a perfect example of why having, all these different levels of entry, first class, business, economy, is so important. If there was a plane that just did first class, why the people who are going to that should just charter? We know.
I sound like that kid. Cue the kid.
Have you ever had a dream that you once?
Throughout my entire career, I've met people who, no, my minimum is a $200,000 a month, and I'm like, how many fucking people are gonna pay you that? Are you keeping your lights on, or are you one of these situations where Gertrude is cutting you a check, or whoever the investor is, and you're just living and burning up cash? I'm saying a real business that's driving revenue, that needs to make revenue to keep the lights on. Those people, the everyday people, the hardworking small business people, they need to not think that way and diversify your offerings so you have different options. Even fucking Ferrari does it, and Ferrari's a big luxury
What do
brand.
you mean? What's entry level?
Ferrari has they have the hypercars, which is like the LaFerrari, the Hyper.
Super.
And then you have the more available, which would be the 458, the 488, the mid-engines, the F12, all that stuff. That's more of, you can go to a dealership again, but they have their tiers.
That I agree with, but that, yeah.
But I'm giving you an example. Like, even a big luxury brand, BMW, has the 1 Series, 2 Series, 3 Series.
And then they have the 5, 6, 7, yeah.
You are allowing yourself to capitalize on every section of the market, from all the way at the bottom to all the way at the top. So at the top, you have the 760.
M760.
M760 V12. No, I don't want to get into that, but I'm just trying to say, like, you have like all the way from the white series, the 1 Series, all the way up to the M760.
And there's entry level, and then there's
exactly.
and then there's enthusiast level.
Exactly.
But that's
but you're capitalizing on each section of the market,
Yeah.
which is the smartest play in business. And I'm not talking crazy here. If the big brands are doing it, hello, let's try to adopt that mindset for your small business.
Yeah. 100%. With the caveat that there are certain industries which you understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
do a quick wrap up.
Yeah, wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Let's go.
You gotta get a wrap up.
Wrap it up.
From the Chappelle Show, cue the wrap up box. Hey, wrap it up, B.
Number one, why are you calling me up trying to confuse me? You know Spellman's in Atlanta too. Second of all, you know I'm vacillating here trying to...
With the Wrap It Up box, you've got that same power right in your pocket.
All right, so just a recap real quick. Small business owners, do not get comfortable or overly confident with different size tickets, jobs, sales, clients, accounts, whatever. Respect all revenue. Obviously, do your math to make sure it makes sense for your company, but respect all revenue, because the ebbs and flows of the economy, you don't know what the is going to happen. respect all revenue, have an entry level, have a mid tier, have a high tier, and have like a huge, big time offering that whatever, because you're going to get some clients that need more projects that are much, much bigger. But don't just say, I only do $1 gazillion for one client.
I feel like Loki's talking directly to me with this.
No, I'm not. No, no,
No,
absolutely not. So folks at home, make sure you remember this. I'll let Jake do the outro.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Real Business Roundtable. Hope you enjoyed today's episode full of insightful value and all that other great stuff. Like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you get notified every single time we post an episode. Peace out. See you next time.